Hi, I'm Julie Davis, and I am the writer, director, and actress of Amy's Orgasm. I'm sitting here with...
Caroline Aaron. I'm just an actress in Amy's Orgasm.
Oh, there's no just. No just. If you've just seen the movie, you saw how fantastic Caroline was, and I wanted her to join me on the commentary because she was a stranger when she first auditioned. I didn't know her, and now we've become really, really close friends, and she's been so supportive during the journey of making this film, which was not easy, as you will find out.
It has been a journey.
So this is the opening scene. This was a really complicated shot. As you see, I'm in the foreground, and the camera now is dialing back into me in the background. Well, you have to wonder, how did they do that? We did it with a green screen. And my goal with that shot was to show that Amy is a public person and a private person, and they're both very different. Here we have the private person, and then we cut here to the public person, who's much better looking and, you know, more glamorous. And here's the real Amy. Doesn't look so hot because inside she doesn't feel so beautiful.
I think one of the things that's really interesting that Julie told me along the way is when you make an independent feature and you don't have the kind of budget that you would have if you were doing a studio movie, where do your compromises come from? And in a story like this, which is about people, and I said to her, there's no car chases, there's nothing blowing up. So besides creature comforts, what were you missing? And one of the things she mentioned was that when you're doing a story about somebody who's very famous, which this character is, that not having all the money that she necessarily wanted, she couldn't necessarily create the largesse of the world of somebody who's extremely famous.
Yeah, this opening scene was so difficult because it really needed to establish Amy Mandel as a famous person. And it was really hard to do that because we didn't have the money for the extras. We wanted just tons of extras and tons of people. And it originally was shot where Janet and I disappear into a limousine when we go outside of the bookstore, but of course we couldn't do that.
Seducing a celibate man away from his allegiance to God has become the fodder for my naughtiest pornographic fantasies.
This is David Noonan, the fantasy priest, and this is kind of funny, but he was my personal trainer right before shooting the movie because I had to lose a lot of weight since I was going to be on screen, and I thought he'd be perfect, plus I wanted to see him semi-naked and have an excuse to kiss him, so it worked out.
So she made a movie to do that.
That was a very expensive way. No.
I think one of the greatest pieces of imagination in this movie is the idea that confession is a free form of therapy, and believe me, even though it was just an idea for this movie, it's one I've entertained since I've been working on it.
That's an idea I've had for so long. I actually wrote this character, this kind of neurotic Jewish girl who goes to a priest to talk about all of her sexual fantasies in a prior script, and I never made that script, so I then put it in this script because I had to use it.
It's such a great idea.
So this is Mitchell Whitfield playing Don, and he was in my first movie, I Love You, Don't Touch Me, and that's Jenny Bransford, who is a very old friend of mine from Dartmouth College. We were in the drama department together, and we've always wanted to work together, so I cast her in the film.
What's really interesting about what Julie accomplished in shooting this movie is I certainly didn't know anybody when I came on board this project, but I really believe the most successful work is a team sport, and Julie created an atmosphere right away where everybody was a part of the same team, and therefore I feel like the relationships really pop.
Well, I tried. I think it's so hard to be an actor, and I have a lot of friends who are struggling actors, and one of the thrills for me in making this film and having raised the money to make it myself was that I could make the decisions to hire my friends, people who I really believed in, who I wanted to give a break to, and that's really satisfying because we're all so frustrated trying to do this with our lives, and it was really great to be able to hire friends.
So I didn't just enter Julie's movie as a cast member, I entered her world. And I've never left it, and I must say I'm really happy to be in it. It's been quite a ride. I should tell them a little bit about my audition. I went in. Julie had originally been considering me for another part in the movie. I had met her a year before. I went in and read for a film of hers that did not get made. Then this film came up, and I was interested in the part that I eventually played.
Well, I originally brought Caroline in to play the mother, and she said to, and you know, she said, I've played this part a million times, and I really would rather play Janet. And I looked at her reel, and I thought, you know what, she's perfect for Janet. She's totally right. So that's how that happened.
In spite of agents, may I say.
That's right. You can tell them that her agent wouldn't even allow her to come in and audition for me.
Yeah,
because they thought it was such a low-profile project and there wasn't enough money in it. And she literally auditioned for this movie in secret without telling her agents. And we'll just leave it at that.
Right,
it's
exactly.
Kind of a sad story.
It was like having an acting affair. I had to sneak to the audition and not tell my representatives.
So here we have the first confessional scene, and you know, we set this little confessional booth up in a soundstage, and we shot all the confession in one day. We just did all of Jeff's scenes, his side, in a row, which was a little bit confusing, and then we went on to my side and shot all my scenes in a row, and just had to make sure that the costume kept changing appropriately for the scene, and we shot it all in one day. It was so much fun because he is such a great comedian. You know, he's a stand-up comedian, and I had also met Jeff. He had auditioned for me for another movie that never got made. That was the same one that Caroline had auditioned for, called Oral Agreement. And he was so funny that when I was casting for this, I thought, you know, that guy Jeff Cesario, he would be great for the priest. I had no idea how to find him, and eventually we tracked him down at the 11th hour. I think it was a week or two before we started shooting. And he came in and read one scene, and that was it. There was no second choice. I can't even imagine who else would have played that role.
Okay, now let's talk about my driving and your money. Driving is probably the thing I'm the least good at in all of life. And again, because it was low budget, Julie didn't have something called a carpool, where you don't really have to drive. You just get to act and somebody else is pulling the car.
But in this movie, you really had to drive.
I had to drive, and the camera, I'm not good when I can see everything, but when the camera's mounted in front of my line of vision, then I'm really hopeless. And Julie just kept saying, drive until you hit something.
It was really dangerous, and actually, if you look really close, you can see the camera mounted on the side of the car, the part of the camera that's still mounted, because we didn't have time to take it off. And I said, oh, don't worry, no one's going to notice it. We have to move, we have to move. We were running. I think the part of me is shot when it was dark out, and part of Caroline was shot when it was light out. It was we were always trying to beat the clock. So this is the women's group, which was not in the first draft of the script. And a friend of mine named Joe Newlight read the first draft of the script and said, you know, you really should have Amy, you know, maybe be part of some group of women that she goes to, you know, just to kind of open up the movie more and have more characters. So that's where those scenes came from. And there were actually a bunch of them, and only 2 ended up staying in. But you might recognize Julie Bowen in the background, who's now become pretty well known on the show Ed. At the time, she wasn't. It's always funny when a movie takes a long time to finish how people's careers can change. Caroline, this is the first scene we shot together.
This is the first scene we shot together, and we really struggled to find the behavior that would show a history between these two characters. And I took exception to the lines that I had a line, I think, originally where I had to say, well, at least people aren't saying you're fat anymore because Julie's not fat. And then I think that was the beginning of our friendship, because we took a trip down the diet highway together. All of our relationship to that.
Well, we did a lot of eating on the set. That's what you do on sets, is you just eat and eat and eat. This was a reshoot. When we originally shot the radio station, we couldn't find a location to have an exterior, and we were in such a rush. But then when we came back, I felt we needed an exterior, and we kind of needed to set up what this radio station was, what it looked like, that it was Matthew's World, because there's not a lot of Matthew's World in the movie. So this was a little reshoot, and we shot it at where they shoot Marketplace, the radio show, the NPR radio show. This is the Marketplace radio station over at USC.
And what was his name originally? This character's name was Matthew.
Oh, Matthew Stern.
Miss Matthew Stern, and we went into looping, and every single time somebody mentioned that name, and I had it a lot, had to be changed
to Matthew Starr, because one of my editors, David Codron, said, you know, you can't have him be Matthew Stern because you'll get sued. People are going to think, you know, you're ripping off Howard Stern. And I thought that was ridiculous, but he literally, petrified me of a lawsuit. And so we had to go in and ADR every single Stern to star, which you can tell if you watch the movie.
I think Howard Stern would have been flattered, but that was just my opinion.
We hope. I hope. I hope so. This was a lot of fun to shoot. A very important scene, and it was a reshoot, I have to admit. The original radio station scene was actually really good, but it was shot very quickly, and at the end of a 16-hour day, and for such an important scene, we kind of rushed through it and missed some important things. So I went back, rewrote it, and it's such a key scene. And here it is.
I think this has some of the best polemic of the movie, is the conversation between the two of you. The male-female, highway with the big white line painted down the middle.
Well, I wanted to show that, he's the ultimate challenge to a woman who's, convinced that she can be single and be alone and not need sex, because he calls her on all of her hypocrisy. He's a real asshole. At the same time, he's really smart and he really gets her, and that's completely irresistible. And I just think that that's it's kind of like a 40s, romantic comedy where they're always sparring. And
now this is how I took it, even though you meant it your way, as I thought, what happens when the person you fall in love with means you have to betray everything you think you stand for? It puts you into such a sense of crisis, and that's what I loved about this story and why I wanted to be a part of it.
Well, who he is when she meets him is not who he becomes throughout the relationship. And I think I was kind of going through a very similar thing, a similar relationship at the time, which is why I wrote the script. Was my way of kind of dealing, figuring it out. It was my self-therapy, was to write this as a script, which is when you do fall for somebody, but there's things about them that you completely don't like, don't believe in. They're against everything that you stand for, but you have to give the person a chance, because there's always things about you as well that maybe they don't like, and you have to give them a chance to change. And Amy had never given anyone a chance to change. And if you don't do that, you can never have a relationship. And that's her journey, is giving him the chance to show who he really is. And he isn't this outside character, this kind of jerk at all.
But what happens when you
her
love
to believe
something?
that he is in many instances.
Yeah, but also what happens when you fall in love with something that which comes, into conflict with your values is.
If it really truly comes in conflict with your values, then I don't think you can fall in love with it. But I think Matthew, he really doesn't. He's not this guy who always has babes on his arm and is screwing, women right and left. He really isn't.
That's his job.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he was at one point in his past, but the man that she meets now isn't that.
Now, this scene was shot at the Methodist Church in Hollywood, and my son was a fourth grader at this school.
And her son's teacher literally walked by right before Caroline kissed me.
And I turned around and I went, I'm making a movie. I'm not here as Ben's mother. Can you imagine if my son had walked by at that moment? He would have quit school and I would have had to homeschool him for the rest of his life. As it is, I hope he never sees this. This was a really fun scene to shoot and really important.
Oh, yeah. It's all one shot, which I wanted to do.
Thank you.
Okay, here's another scene that was really, really difficult, which is where we want to show that Amy's a public person and have a lot of extras. And, there's not that many people in there. And there's not that many people in there who are actors, which is even harder, because you can really see sometimes if you look, the people are bored, they're not listening. And the extras are a character in this movie. You have to see that these people really are affected by her.
And that she's surrounded all the time and has a big impact.
Yeah. I think we cut the scene, I don't even know how many times the scene was edited and re-edited and re-edited, and that gunshot, oy vey. I mean, that was such a nightmare, because we wanted to show, we wanted to have someone shooting her because the things that she says rile people up so much, and that gunshot was so pathetic. We couldn't even get it to hit the podium. So we did a little special effect there where we kind of zoom into it, and that was my editor, Glenn Garland's idea.
It's the best
which was great.
Yeah. This is Charles Chiaffi and Mary Ellen Trainor, who play my parents. They both auditioned, and I felt they would be Amy's parents. And they're very different, but you can see how these two very different personalities created this woman who is a contradiction. This very kind of soft, feminine, sexy mom, and then this kind of very gruff, abrasive, judgmental father came together to create this girl.
But in the way that they say that all great work is subconscious, having since met Julie's mother, she has a resemblance to this actress. She's young and beautiful and blonde and soft and...
Yeah. I didn't even realize that when I cast her.
I know you didn't, but don't you see it now?
A movie is the writer's subconscious or the director's subconscious coming out. You don't realize you're making all these choices that you really have to do so much with all of your psychology. And this is Kira Reed, who played the lead in a movie I directed for the Playboy Channel called Losing Control. You can rent it at Blockbuster. And Kira is really a wonderful actress who looks phenomenal with her clothes off, but doesn't need to take her clothes off to be good. And I thought this was a great little role to showcase how funny and talented she is. And it was a lot of fun. She's great.
Chapter 12.
What did Nick feel when he got to sit opposite her? Sort of a perk of his job.
Neither do I.
This was so late, I don't remember.
Sex is the logical outgrowth of love.
So that was my production designer, Carol Strober's idea, was to put all of these headshots of real porn stars and B-movie actresses on the wall in Matthew's office. And throughout the movie, as his relationship with Amy is growing, those photos come down. It's very subtle, but it was one of the changes that you see. She's changing him, and he doesn't want to be surrounded by the bimbos. He wants a blank wall now. He's a blank slate. A woman is changing him. I thought that was a really great idea of Carol's, and the production design is so important in telling you about character. Amy's house here, we found just driving by and knocking on the person's door and saying, "Hi, we love your house. Can we shoot here?" It was wonderful, a wonderful house. And unfortunately, we broke a lot of things, so we couldn't go back there for reshoots.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
We broke a lot of pots. This scene is a very obvious homage to the scene in Hannah and her sisters around the table with Hannah and her sisters, which I always loved. And I thought it would be fun to do a dinner table scene without just having the static headshots. And besides, Amy is admitting that she's fallen for this guy who is against everything that she represents. And for her, the world is now spinning out of control. Her friends are judging her with their different opinions. And I almost wanted her to start to feel nauseous with Janet judging her. This guy just wants you to suck his dick, and oh my God, the camera's spinning faster, and she's right. She's right. It's just sex. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm falling for this guy, until she, just falls apart. And that was what I kind of wanted to try to do here.
Was there another scene attached to the top of this scene that didn't make it into the movie, where we were sitting on the outside of the bar here?
Oh no, that was the beginning of the movie, but that's on the DVD deleted scenes. This is Vincent Castellanos playing Hans. He is the first person who auditioned for the role, and I said to Nancy Nair, my casting director, I said, "That's it, I don't want to see anybody else." And she said, "Well, we have a bunch of people coming in today." I said, "Doesn't matter, he's perfect, he's it." And then at the last minute, he actually couldn't do the role because he was in Florida. There was a scheduling problem, and he was shooting another movie. And we paid to fly him back. I said, he has to do it. I love this guy. And working with him was just such a treat. We have another person joining us on the commentary now. This is Don Bloomfield, co-producer and my acting coach on the set. He was my second set of eyes and saved me.
And made many trips running to get coffee.
Right.
And general therapist when times got tough.
Yeah, it was so hard to be the director and the actress.
Which is why I was crammed behind that back seat, right behind you for about
Well, that
3
was
hours.
when I couldn't see where I was going, and Julie said, "Just drive until you hit something." And we were in a neighborhood, I don't think we had permits or anything, did
No,
we?
of course not.
No, we didn't have anything going for us, including I barely had a driver's license. So to act and drive to me is advanced acting.
And it's funny, there were so many takes where we had to cut because you could see Don in the back seat. You could see just a little bit of him. It was so hard to hide.
Julie had somebody in front of the car with like a flashlight, like just sort of beaming a light at us.
Don was really, he was so important to have on the set because it was, every day was like a war. It was like fighting the war. And there were so many people, you know, that you have battles with and difficulties with. It's just the nature of making a movie.
Sometimes it's just important just to like, give you a little bit of peace of mind when you are wearing so many hats at the same time.
Well, I trust you so much, and I could always say to him, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? He was like he was my second set of eyes, truly my other director. When I couldn't direct, when I was so into, you know, had to be in the scene as an actor so much that I did lose my eyes, he was really there.
And it's hard to be looking outside of yourself and being inside the scene at the same time. And Don became Julie's way of staying inside the movie, so he could be outside the movie while she needed to be inside it.
Which meant sometimes I had to be very tough on her because when she was being completely lambasted with producerial notes and every which way with directorial things, then sometimes she just needed to be reminded that she is the actress and she needs to stay completely focused because, you know, if it's been a harrowing day and she's going on a date as she is in this scene, it's important to take a deep breath, you know, let them just, you know, get her ready and just, you know, be relaxed.
Well, so many times you would say to me, you don't look good. You need to get back into hair and makeup.
You look tired.
You look exhausted. You look like you're the producer.
And in hair and makeup, Julie was signing checks, rewriting the script, deciding on the next day's locations while everybody else was trying to concentrate, who only had one hat on what it was they had to be doing.
Well, it brings up a lot of issues.
Remember this? This was I think this was only the second day with Nick and I, or maybe even our
This was
first
the
day.
first day with Nick.
Oh, this was the first day with
Yeah.
Nick.
Is this a reshoot?
No,
No,
this was
okay.
original photography.
Mm-hmm.
This was our first day together, Nick and I, working. That outfit that I'm wearing was couture. I never knew what couture meant until this movie, which means that it was made for my body. It was made to my measurements by Dre Gamalski, who was a
Or Drea Detroit.
Dre Detroit. That's what
I
she goes
believe
by.
She goes by that.
That's right. And she made these two outfits for me because she just wanted to have a chance to make clothes and have them in a movie, and they're so phenomenal.
They
There's
really are.
that one here, the Little Mermaid outfit, and there was one later, but she said, well, we're going to accentuate the part of you that looks good, which is your waist, and then we're going to you know, cover the part of you that isn't as good, which is your wide hips. And it was really
Cut to close up.
it was fun. That's a lot more fun than sometimes directing
And
is.
this day, you are this is some of, in my opinion, this is some of your most precise and some of your most relaxed work. And you were as sick as a dog this day. You could bear. They were actually recommending you go home this day. Do you remember?
Yes. In fact, this day we were, Caroline and I were supposed to shoot a scene together after this, and she said, don't worry, we don't have to shoot it today. I'll come back and you don't have to pay me. And I will never forget that because you knew the scene wouldn't be good if we shot it this day. We had been shooting all night long.
Right.
And it was so hot out. This was during the summer.
I think that I said at one of the festivals Julie and I went to, and I really believe this, that the less you get paid, the more fun you have, and the more you get paid, the less fun you have. And so being part of this was not about money. It was about a chance to be a part of Julie's work. And there's no money that could have replaced that, really. I really mean that.
Now this is at the Skirball Institute,
Oh, yeah.
right off of the 405, and this was a real production. This was some of the. This is where a lot of the money, probably in the budget, went to. I imagine.
Yeah,
getting
this
the
was
Skirball.
that's true. That's true. It was an expensive location, and my co-producer Fred Kramer got this string quartet for, I think, practically free, which was really important because I thought, how are we going to get an first it was supposed to be a whole orchestra, and
That's another example of where the compromises have to come from.
yeah, that was supposed to be a really big. That was supposed to be the Hollywood Bowl. That was supposed to be
Right.
like this major concert, and that's what we made it. was this little group of extras, some of them who look like they're 15, and I think they were. And, you know, with editing, you cover it.
But it also really lends a very intimate portrait for your first date with Matthew, which I like. You know, I don't think it would have been the same if it had been some huge, you know, setting. I think it's very sweet that it wasn't in this. And
They
this
say
was
make
about,
make
what,
lemonade from lemons.
That's right. What was this about? This was about 5 in the morning, and everybody was like completely like, you know.
Yeah, this was the last shot of the night at the concert night, and this was very hard to light because this is a big lighting setup, which usually takes a long time, which we really didn't have.
It was a race against the sun and against the crew. It was very early in the morning. The birds were singing.
No, it wasn't that. No, it wasn't. It wasn't that late.
No?
No. No. But, you know, this was, I think, take number 13, which for us was quite a lot. We usually only did about 3. I tried to do 3 or 4 takes, but this one took forever. You know, it was one long shot. And either Nick forgot a line, or I forgot a line, or the camera made a bump or something. It was so hard to get this right, and we were burning through so much film. Now these
Talk
titles,
about these, yeah.
this came at the very end. This was not in the first few cuts of the film, these little titles. And the idea to do the animation, which I thought was, you know, would kind of make them different than just regular titles, came from Glenn Garland, my editor, who had a friend named John Santos, who was an animator and would do it for a good rate. Don thinks that the titles were his idea.
I know for a fact they were, because we were in the editing bay, and I said, wouldn't it be cute to divide it into chapters?
All
like
right,
the
I'll
book?
give you that. I don't remember. You know what? You had other ideas that were better than that. I'll give you credit for it. They're coming up. But, you know, the book, the chapters we tried to put in, and they didn't work at one point. But I think the animation helped them. I know there are people who don't like the titles, but I think it makes sense because she's an author.
I agree.
I think it's great, and I have to say, all the versions of this movie, I said to Julie yesterday when we were working on something else, it's like this movie is, you know, 5 or 6 children she's given birth to, and she loves all of them, but she only respects this one.
Now, this scene happened in real life. This is one of the verbatim scenes from my first date with the man who became my husband, Scott Mandel. And this is really and truly just verbatim.
One of my favorite shots of Julie.
Oh, this was such an important scene to me because it was real. It was based on a real, you know, night, and I wanted it to be special. I had told him not to kiss me when we got to the door, and I just couldn't believe I said that when I went
And he
inside.
married her anyway. That's the thing.
That's why he married her.
Well, and I'll never forget just watching him walk away to his car all alone. This, I wanted this to be a more poignant shot. I wanted it to be, you know, even further away. But
one of the
I'm
things
happy
that was
with how
great
turned
that you
out.
did, Julie, was you knew when you had to, you know, give up your first choice because you didn't have time or money to just make sure you got your story told, and that's a really hard thing to do.
No, we don't point out little inconsistencies like the different top you're wearing here, do we?
Oh, of course. Well, this was just a mistake. I go to bed wearing the bra and wake up in the outfit, and I should have gone to bed in the outfit. But because we shot all the masturbation stuff at the same time, when I was wearing the bra, we forgot that I was going to have a masturbation shot with me in this top, and it was very hard to keep all this straight. So that was a little continuity error. But I thought if people are in the story, they don't really notice it. Because I know I don't notice those things in movies.
Exactly. My mother always said if they're looking at your shoes, you're not very interesting.
Well, I had an editing teacher at AFI 10 years ago named Steve Cohen, a wonderful editor, and he always said matching is for sissies. Cut to make the scene work emotionally. That doesn't mean that the shots have to match perfectly. And I believe that 100%.
Still waiting for a goodnight kiss.
That's one of my favorite shots of Nick. I think the way the light hits his eyes, you really can see into him, and that's really important. I really like that. That's one of my favorite shots of him.
Yeah, he's very gentle in there.
Is this your footage?
Yes, everyone asked that. No, this is our footage. Goran Pavicevic shot this.
Gorgeous.
Yes, really beautiful. Well, we shot it. It was a pickup because, of course, we didn't have time to do those during the regular shooting. And Goran, Alexander Kravitz, his first assistant camera operator, and myself, just the 3 of us, went out to the 101 in the middle of the night and shot that stuff.
Can we talk about how brilliant I think this actor is? I can never recognize him from film to film.
This is Michael Harris. He was in my first film, I Love You, Don't Touch Me, and he was also in my film All Over the Guy, and I plan to use him in every film I ever make.
And no one will know because he's always completely different.
He's a great actor. He's a chameleon.
I sat in the editing room with Julie for months and laughed at the scene every time.
It's so great.
Well, it was his idea to create this character with the way he's dressed and the way he talks and the way this scene was written. He could have played him a million different ways, but he came to the set prepared to be this person. And yeah, he just did a great job.
For example,
I met this guy last night at a party, and we went back to his place and had the most.
And these were all done in that sweltering sound stage. You built the entire little set, the
confessional.
little confessional booth.
This is one of my favorite scenes, I think, in the movie.
No,
I think this scene was Joe Newlight's idea. I might be wrong, but on his the very first draft of the script, he gave me a little passive notes, and I think this might have been one of his notes. Was to show them in the confessional. I might be wrong. You forget sometimes whose ideas were what.
but I have to say that that's one of the greatest things about having worked on this movie was it was so collaborative. Is that Julie is so receptive to. She doesn't have to have the omniscient point of view. She has to be the final word, but she really empowers every creative person to
Well, the whole
contribute.
point. I mean, to me, the most important part of being a director is knowing when to listen to other people's good ideas, knowing when to listen to other people, and then knowing which ideas are good and which are bad. If you're not open to that, I just don't think you'll make as good a film because you can't have all the answers. It's really important to have people that you respect, that you work with, surrounding you. You're only as good as your collaborators. And
Now this was a shot on a track that was so complicated because it was such a
yeah, this shot took forever.
an important scene emotionally, and it was like doing it on a railroad track. That's all I remember.
Well, any of these shots, these long shots, or these 1 or 2 page scenes that take place in one shot, were so hard because we didn't have the time to rehearse them enough that they were going to work when we shot the film. So they were very hard. The focus, the split focus here.
Well, what's really I thought was really amazing about this day is that this is a real turning point for Janet, and the emotion that you, Caroline, bring into the scene. I don't recall being in the script and you finding that moment of pain when Janet is such a tough character and on a day that was so grueling.
It was a terrible day.
I remember standing there and thinking that it really completely turned this entire relationship around, and I thought it was completely in the performance. And I remember standing there on the side and thinking,
So it wasn't in the script at all?
no, the scene was, but how
No, she
deeply
elevated
she
it.
felt.
Absolutely, she elevated it.
Right.
Well, Julie and I talked
Well, this
originally
is
when
where
I was
you
going to
know
play
that
this.
she's. Yeah, okay, I'll let you talk.
Well, no, but we talked about the fact that love in any combination, and in this case, it has to do with, woman to woman, man to woman. It's going to end up with some of the same issues involved, and I couldn't let my longing for you have any less importance than your longing for Nick or his longing for you. Otherwise, it just would have been a type of relationship. Even this is a love combination. Do you know what I mean?
I'm seeing someone.
These 2 scenes were not supposed to be intercut. This was something that was figured out in the editing room. The scene with Hans was a longer scene. It was just one big full scene that I cut into pieces. And well, this was shot, I think, almost a year and a half later.
Yeah.
After the original photography. This shot here, when we were doing pickups.
Well, because you had said that, where you wanted Nick to live and how you wanted this to look, you couldn't accomplish the first time, and that it had changed the story.
We never got the right location for his house, and it was really difficult. This was the original location, but the outside was just really weird and cold, and we kind of had to reshoot it at a different exterior.
And you said it was part of the storytelling as far as you were concerned.
Well, it is. Where someone lives and how they live is part of who they are. So it's production design as a character. Absolutely.
I believe this was another very hot, very tight set. There was a lot of heat coming from those lamps, and these are some long days and some long nights. I mean, that's what's really amazing is that, you know, everybody looks relaxed and everything looks so, you know, cool.
It was like being in a foxhole.
It was.
It was guerrilla filmmaking,
I mean, everywhere
may I say.
everywhere around these people are just people just crammed like in corners like flies, just 1 inch be out of frame, you know.
And the crew, it was like being a mail order bride. Every time you showed up on the sets, there was somebody else to be married to.
Yeah, the crew changed. I think the crew changed almost every day. There were people coming and going and coming and going, and it was.
Yeah.
Now here comes the crucial shot that Julie and that her husband and I both agreed was the most critical shot in the movie. That one right there.
I think Glenn had cut that shot shorter, and I said, Glenn, what are you doing? Every frame of that shot has to be there. This isn't vanity. That's
Well, it does. It you know, it really is some of Amy's sexiest, most innocent but sexy moments. It's really that turning point from innocence to innocence lost, and we love that.
Cheers.
At least I do.
Yeah.
And your husband does.
No, this was one of the most fun scenes to shoot, because when I wrote it, I had so much fun. It's just I love fantasies. I think you know, we go through life in thinking in fantasies. That's so much of what goes on in our heads during the day. And
I'm so trying to outgrow that, but I guess I should just give up.
oy vey, this was a nightmare. It's a DVD commentary, so the truth has to come out. This was the last scene that Nick and I shot together, and I think by this point we were just, you know, we really had it with each other. We were kind of exhausted, and
But this is a reshoot.
No. This is original photography.
Right. This isn't the last shot. This is the last scene of the first round with the movie, not
Right.
the
Yeah.
reshoots.
Right. And
Well, this was also a very early morning, and it was just another one because you were using 2 restaurants. This one and the one it was connected to, which was when Amy introduces Matthew to her
no,
friends.
that's the same restaurant.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but you
right.
used it as 2 different restaurants.
Right. We had
so
to make it into 2 different restaurants.
You had a lot on your hands today,
Right.
and it was a long day.
Yeah. And this is such an important scene. I mean, this is their first where he opens up to her that he doesn't have a good relationship with his mother, and then Amy kind of starts to judge him, and he doesn't want to open up. And this is like that typical, you know, date where you start to get, you know, you want to get closer and you want to see how much, you know, how much room you're going to have to get in, and the guy puts up the wall.
Well, the scene can also go so many different directions, and it was so important to really, really have it go the direction you needed it to, without it becoming too, you know, too acrimonious. You know, I mean.
Well, the first few cuts were really acrimonious.
Yeah.
It was like he really had contempt for her digging and trying to find out about him. And we really had to work hard to take that out of there. You know, where he almost was kind of he had to be a little bit turned on that she was going to dig and get inside of him. Because I think all men want that ultimately. But that's just me.
I hope you're right. That's all I'm just hoping that's true.
She's been married for 20 years.
I know.
Oh, they fight so hard, but they want us to get in. You know, this scene was very hard, very important. You know, the moment where she decides that she's going to make love to Matthew, and another one of these very late nights.
And when you were editing the movie the first time, Julie, one of the things that, you know, you were despairing about is how to walk that line between when is the relationship veering off the highway and when is the attraction going to overrule whatever else is happening. It's a very hard line to walk. And you had so many choices with each of these takes in terms of Nick's face in this take and Nick's face in that take, and you never wanted you guys to be cut loose from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And he played it a lot of times like he was rejecting her.
Yeah.
And you didn't want that.
Yeah, it was.
You wanted him to play against the line.
Yeah, it was very, very challenging. It was also hard to be the director and the actress in scenes like this.
Every man knows what that face was right there. That was a great face on Nick's part, with you lying on his lap.
Oh. I wanted it to be in his face that he was tentative as well, because he knew how important this was to Amy. And it was a responsibility for him if he was going to make love to her. It wasn't just going to be sex. And so he's actually a little tentative and nervous. That's what I wanted.
But your relationship with Nick as a director was very much, had the same content in a way that your movie did, which is that, you know, the power that you had in this situation, which was to direct him and act opposite him, also brought up in him a need to, you know, rebel.
Yeah, the two relationships did mirror each other a lot. Mm-hmm. I made the zipper really loud when she undoes his fly. I mean, we just had to amp it up so that you see that he's just, you know, supposed to just be huge. That was in the script. It was like, you know, camera zooms into Amy's face as she unzips Matthew's zipper. And I think it actually worked better in the script. I didn't get it quite as funny as I wanted it to be. But it's hard to create to make a scene sexy and funny at the same time.
Don't have sex with him. Just give him a blowjob.
After you're married for a little while longer, sex will be funny. You just haven't been married long enough, honey.
Oh no, it's already funny. It is. Trust me. Trust me. Now, this is insane, but I might as well just admit it. He comes back to bed, and she thinks he's come back with a condom. And in the original screenplay, he comes back with a gun, and he tells her he always sleeps with a loaded gun by the bed because it's kind of a sketchy neighborhood. And
Well, she says, "Do you have protection?" Is that the way it went?
yeah, she goes, and I says, "Oh, I thought you were getting protection." He goes, "This is protection."
Right.
it just didn't work. I still mourn the loss of it. And it was also to be that he's an odd guy. Everything about him is not expected. You think the man's going to go run off and get a condom, and he comes back with a gun, but it just didn't work. So, one of those things that
I think maybe
falls away.
The famous nipple slip is coming up, isn't it?
Oh, the nipple slip just passed.
We just passed it.
Yeah, that was only in
Very
this
quietly.
one take where you saw the nipple. It was a mistake, but it was the best take, of course, so we had to use it, and I don't care, but, you know,
Sex last night.
there were some people
But they're
who,
no longer your nipples.
But your husband is.
I'm not, what does that mean?
It means you're married now, and you have someone who wishes the scene weren't in the movie.
Oh, well, you know, it goes by so fast, I don't think people even see it. If you blink, you miss it.
Believe me, if you're a man, you're looking for it.
It's
Always.
the best sex. Not that I can speak for all women, but it's a fact that the
These
closest
confession scenes were so much fun to shoot.
Well, these were reshoots too.
No, they weren't. Oh,
Yes,
Don,
they were.
this was not a reshoot. All the confession was shot in one day. The only confession, see, we're already, this is our whole relationship. The only confession scene that was a reshoot is
the
coming up
restaurant.
later, which is where he says he's a big fucking pussy who can't commit.
Yeah.
That's the only one. These were all shot the same day. I can't
I can
believe
tell
you.
by your hairstyle. that
Don.
It's different.
Don.
This was not shot during
Don,
the original
who are you
movie.
talking to? You're talking to the person who can tell you the key code number on every single take of dailies.
Okay.
This is original photography.
Okay.
They made my hair look shorter. You know, she was trying to make me look different in every scene with him because they were different days.
If he is an asshole or not, but if he is an asshole, then you know something.
Did you guys
I
improvise
love
any
fighting
of
with
this?
you. I just love
Did
it.
did you
I
guys
hate it.
improvise any of this dialogue?
I always lose.
You don't lose.
Did I just say asshole?
Oh, well, you know,
Because he's a stand-up, and I just wondered.
oh, he loves to improvise.
He
I
does.
love when he does it because he's just brilliant at it. But you can't improvise if you don't have a script to start from. You have to
Absolutely.
have a very solid scene
Is this
because
not the first
otherwise it just the scene could have funny lines, but it's not going to forward the story.
So is this not the first day of shooting?
This was the first day of shooting.
May I say that, you know, I feel that you've brought snowballs back into the American junk food consciousness.
I love snowballs.
We
I
had
think
a
they're
hard
delicious.
time finding
You
them.
have saved Hostess.
You've saved these
I
snowballs.
wish Hostess would only have contributed some, you know, some money to the production. Oh well. Or at least donated the snowballs, which not even that.
Okay, she opened up to someone tonight. That is a very big step.
This was the very first day?
Very first day, yeah. That was a scene that, by the way, that had really happened. I was talking to Mitchell Whitfield, and he was recounting a scene just like that.
If my ass is
So,
a deal breaker, then he's not for me.
It ended up.
Ended up in the movie.
Passive games.
Is this the voiceovers on the answering machine?
Yeah.
And
No, not the one that you did. Don's just waiting. He wants to get credit for all of his ideas. That one's coming up later. But feel free, Don, just say that was my idea. At 2:45 a.m. on this date. That's Jackie Debatin, a wonderful actress, and she was in my first film as well. And here is a very old friend of mine named Siri Nottage, who I went to Dartmouth with. And it was so much fun to act with her finally after all these years.
I've read your book 3 times. I love that chapter.
This is so authentic to me. This scene, I remember when I saw it in the movie, it was just the sense of...
Another scene where we just didn't have enough extras to create this party atmosphere, and everyone was so young. All the extras just kept coming in at like 16 and 17 years
Well,
old.
there's a lot of crew members in this, too.
Yeah.
Just like they were at the lecture, in the lecture hall.
Yeah, we were talking about that before. That's where Julie
This is another scene that's based on reality, where after
Julie likes to make
after
calls
my
on the
husband
potty.
and I had spent our first night together, he didn't call me at all the next day, and I truly wanted to kill myself. And I finally called him from a party, and he said, "Oh, I sent you a fax," which in the movie I had to change to email because now faxes are outdated and emails are in.
Perfect stuff.
I couldn't wait to see you.
Unfortunately, after I called him, this scene didn't happen in real life. But this is what I would have liked to have happened.
Exactly.
I'm coming right over. That's Tina Lifford, who I forgot to introduce before, playing Irene, and she's such a great actress and a wonderful human being. And Julie Bowen again from Ed.
And this was also done at the Skirt Ball.
Yes. We got our mileage out of the Skirball Center. This scene was really made in the editing as well. I mean, it was written like this, but it was quite hard to cut.
You just passed the casting director.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
On the left side.
I actually have my former agent as well is in that shot, Jill Holwager.
See the power of Julie. She can get everybody to do all these things.
I know I got my ICM agent to leave the office for an entire day to be an extra. But you know, look, this is that's what it's about, right? It's about the work.
Now, what is this
So?
scene based loosely on, Julie?
Nothing. This scene isn't based on anything.
Who is he supposed to be?
Who's that actor?
I'm not going to say. My goodness, this is not based on anything. But this was obviously shot the bookstore night, the night that we shot the bookstore scene.
You guys are the only 2 people who like to shop there, obviously.
I know, we lost all our extras. They were in overtime.
I know.
That scene went in and out of the movie so many times.
It's such a good scene. I'm so glad it.
Sometimes when you're editing, you just don't know what you need and what you don't. I at least need to show it to audiences and get a sense if the scene is really needed. Because I think every scene has to push the story forward.
Absolutely.
Not that I adhere to that 100%, but I know that's the way it should be. And this is Fredericks of Hollywood, and that's Andrea Bendewald, who was on the show Suddenly Susan, and Wally Kurth from General Hospital, who was also in my first film. As you can see, I love to use the same actors and create a family of actors.
And they love to come back and work for you.
Well, it's a family affair. I really believe
It
that.
is.
It should be, at least. I think
should be.
that's how.
I think the
it's
things
such
you ca-
hard work, and so you might as well have fun and be with people that you care about.
And also, you can't see it, but I really believe the invisible connections make for a better movie, even though you can't see them.
I think actors that work under very confined sets and shows where everything is to the beat, love coming and working on something where there really is no wrong. It happens the way it happens. It's almost like guerrilla filmmaking. Half the fun is in the electricity of the moment. We do it now and see the way it comes out. And, I think it must be really liberating for them to be able to come down for a day and work like this.
Well, you never want to, cut somebody's
Like this right here.
legs off, so to speak. I mean, if so many actors, their strength is in improvisation. Not all. And the ones who aren't good at it, you can't let them do it. But the ones who are good, you've got to give them free rein,
Right.
or you're really handicapping them.
Right.
This, for instance, when Mitchell says, "It's for you,"
It's for you.
is, of course, that was Mitchell's idea. in
do
the
it like
in the
Nick.
moment on that one take, and it's great. You got to give that freedom, and that's supposed to be moonlight hitting my face through a window. That was actually Mark Mervis's first day of photography. Mark Mervis shot the majority of the film. We had 4 DPs on this because there were some problems, but this was Mark's first day. I love his lighting. His use of color is so bold, and I thought really lends itself to a comedy. And we did have a bunch of DPs on this because they either, it didn't work out with the first DP because she felt that I needed her to shoot too fast, and she couldn't shoot that fast and feel good about her work.
This is Mike.
Now, this was
that was-
entirely redone, this entire
Yeah,
scene. was-
there
And
was
recast.
a recast. This was the original brother and sister were recast, and this was the first scene just was really, just didn't work.
I liked it.
The actors were fantastic, but I think that the scene
It was the
really
writing.
took the...
The writing was off. I had to rewrite it.
I think
I'll
it just
take-
took the
yeah.
movie in the wrong direction.
Yeah. That's Mark Brown, wonderful actor, and his wife is played by Nell Balaban, who I think I've known since I was 9, from Interlochen summer camp, and is a wonderful actress and singer.
And Julie's just talking about the writing, is that I can't remember where it was in the journey, but I remember you being at my house for about 12 hours, and we went through every single line in the script, Julie kept feeling like she wasn't telling the story right, that there was something wrong in the arc of the story, and we read it out loud, and we rewrote it, and we talked about our own personal lives.
Both of you, Don and Caroline, really helped me rewrite so many scenes where I think my problem as a writer is I'll write a scene as a scene unto itself is really good, but within the whole, it doesn't tell the story properly. It will veer off in different directions, and I think like that in many ways, as my thinking can be like ping pongs and very unfocused, and so I really need to work on looking at the whole piece. That's my challenge as a writer, and that's why.
But you never stopped looking. That was what was so amazing. Is you shot it twice, I think, when we had this all-day script day, and you went something. It's not the acting, it's not the editing, it's in the writing. I'm off course. You
It's
know
really
that.
hard to isolate it sometimes too, because sometimes it is in the acting, not the writing. Sometimes it's in the writing, not the acting. Sometimes the writing and the acting are perfect, and it's in the editing. And to
Right.
try to isolate it is an art unto itself.
Can I just interject that this was the single most difficult shot to get in this movie? I don't know if you remember that, but these bars and timing these bars to hit it right on the lines that were necessary to see you, we must have taken
24 takes.
at least. Oh
Yeah.
well, probably exact knowing you, but it was very towards the beginning of the movie, and the way you know how you have to shoot, and for you to take anything
Well,
additional.
what's so sad is because I was in the scene and I wasn't behind the monitor and we didn't have video playback, I kept being told that I didn't get the shot. And the fact of the matter is, I think the second take was perfect. So it was.
You mean I could have had those 22 takes for some of my work?
Exactly. That
I
money
resent
could have
that.
gone into much better craft
I'm
service.
sorry, this was the one that was reshot.
That's right. This was a
okay.
reshoot.
Well, you said that none of the
No, I
confession
said
booths were reshot.
this one was reshot. I said the one where he says he's a big fat pussy you can't commit.
Okay. Again, I stand corrected. I hate arguing with you because I always lose.
You don't always lose.
And if anybody ever edits with Julie, never put your foot on the base of her chair. Or she'll cut it off.
Because it gets me nervous. I'm trying to concentrate, and you
know.
kept kicking my chair
I
when we
know
were
when
editing.
you're focused, it's tough.
Yeah.
You don't want to break that.
No, it's bad. It's bad. This is the first scene we shot in the whole movie. The whole movie, first day. It was, if you notice, a scene without me, because I needed to get my feet wet as the director and not be in a scene. So this was the very first scene we shot. Nancy Schreiber was the director of photography for the first 3 days, and
No, you look great. It's just
She just couldn't get on the ride. She was brilliant, but she wanted a couple hours to light, which I really appreciated. Since
And
I
was this the one that was reshot? This section right here? Remember we had to...
we had to reshoot his close-up, which we ended up not using because we didn't have time to get a close-up. And so a few days later, we shot a close-up, but it never matched, and we didn't use it.
And Jenny Bransford looks absolutely beautiful in this scene.
Of course. They're great in this scene. This scene actually was not in the first cut of the film because people kept saying in focus groups that the scene was good, but they didn't need it in the movie. And I felt, well, God, let's get away from Amy. I mean, don't we want, we want to be with other people. Basically, what needed to happen is it needed to move down to this part in the movie. It was earlier. But there's still people who don't think it belongs in the movie, but I do.
And this is the restaurant that was connected with the sushi restaurant that we were
Right.
talking about earlier.
Right.
You mean it's in disguise? This
Well, it's the
restaurant?
same restaurant.
That's
It's
the way
in
Julie
disguise.
works. Julie can use the same thing and make it look like two opposite ends of the earth.
Well, it's not me. It was Carol. I will give Carol Strober credit.
Right.
Again,
Sure.
production designer. Actually, we shot in this restaurant for I Love You, Don't Touch Me as well. So
See, they invited you back.
they're not inviting me back again.
And it's Pritzi's restaurant, right? This is Pritzi's?
This is Pritzi's Piazza on Franklin Avenue.
Which is my favorite pizza restaurant with the best garlic rolls in all of Los
They
Angeles.
do. They have great garlic rolls.
Or actually garlic sticks.
Yeah. Bruce Wilner, who's the owner, has let me shoot here for 2 movies, but on this movie he was upset because I think we turned the refrigerator off because it was making a noise and all their food spoiled. I know. Well,
You can't be everywhere at once. You try, but you can't be.
I know. The very first scene I shot with Julie, in between lighting setups, I wanted to ask her a question, but she was signing checks. I went, "Can I ask you something?" And she said, "Just a minute." And she was signing checks, and we didn't really know each other that well. And I
well,
thought,
you know, I haven't even discussed how I raised the money for this, which people always want to know. I raised it at a film festival in Miami, Florida, the South Beach Film Festival. I was showing my first movie, I Love You, Don't Touch Me, which I feel like I've been plugging shamelessly on this DVD. And someone in the audience said, "How much did you make it for?" And I said, "I made it for $68,000. But if I'd had 500, I really could have done a great job." And afterwards, this person named Kip Rabin said, "I'd like to give you that 500 for your next movie," which was
and that's why we don't give up fantasies, because you could dream that, and it actually happened.
yeah, it was incredible. And I am so grateful to him, and I hope that he can, one day see his money back, which is really hard with independent films. But he was an angel. He just raised the money and put up some himself because he believed in me, and I'm really grateful. Really grateful. Thank you, Kip.
That's not true. I had a brief
A patron of the
passionate
arts.
affair that ignited the first book.
Used to happen all the time.
Very few of those left today.
It wasn't a
I know.
one-night stand. It was one long weekend. You know what? I don't know why I'm so honest.
We shot all the
And
scenes with the
you ever do
parents
is
one day as
start right
well.
back in my face.
The second day of shooting, actually.
We shot all of their scenes in one day?
Yeah, except the scene at the
At the
radio station. Yeah.
Really? I
Yeah.
don't think I remember that.
All their scenes in one day. These 2 actors are so fantastic.
I love him.
I did the Sisters Rosenzweig with him at the Doolittle Theater in Los Angeles.
This is shot at night, pitch black out. It took so long to make that light for this Fakakta shot, but we needed it. Well, of course, this is one of my favorite scenes because it's just so shocking.
If I knew you were coming over, I wouldn't have just jacked off.
And so funny. And so male-female. Do you know, I mean, in all the places you've showed this movie, it's very interesting.
Yeah,
to
only
hear.
the men laugh. The women don't
That's
laugh,
right.
and the men just
That's
go.
right. I know.
This is actually one of the few scenes. This was a very easy scene to shoot. I think because it was during the day, and so it wasn't hard to light. And
I love the fact that you have nuts and a nutcracker right in front of you.
Carol Strober at work.
Brilliant little significant message.
This was an empty apartment that just totally empty, and Carol, right down the street from Carol's house, which she likes to shoot close to her house, and she filled it up.
I can't stop thinking about it.
And here we are back again. I'll let you tell the story, Don.
This is my favorite. Okay, this is a scene that went awry. He forgot what his lines were, and Julie was giving her lines, and right here, she's waiting for him to deliver his lines, and he doesn't. And it's the funniest moment in the movie to me.
That was a whole long scene. That scene went on. That was like a 2-page scene, and it's not in the movie because
And
it
Julie was
stopped
ready,
right there.
Julie was ready to trash in the editing room, and I was like, "Are
bullshit.
you kidding me?"
Oh, you are lying.
We all have our personal little favorite moments.
So see here, you see now in his office how Amy's photo's up on the wall and the porno girls are all down. Subtle, but important. That's Bob Harvey, who gave me my camera from Panavision on my last film and this film, and is single-handedly responsible for my being able to make both of these movies for the money I've had. He's been so phenomenal. I think he told me the two other filmmakers that he's helped are Paul Thomas Anderson and Quentin Tarantino.
Wow.
And I said, oh, well, I think I'm disappointing you because well, he said one day, kid. So
this was more skirball.
yeah, more the skirball, the masturbation lecture. Actually, this was a really tough day because one of the lenses we had a problem. It hadn't been tested, and almost all the footage from this whole day was out of focus, which was like a $10,000 day, and it was really...
That's Lori, the costume designer.
really
Makeup
tough.
artist.
I'm sorry.
That was
makeup
Lori, the
artist.
makeup artist,
Forgive
yeah.
me.
What's wrong?
So this idea to intercut these two scenes, the movie line and the dinner table, was Glenn Garland's idea. My editor, who came in, the movie was already cut, and he came in and recut it, and saved it. Just did a phenomenal job. And this was his idea completely. Basically, we reshot the scene at the dinner table, which it just didn't work, and we reshot it in this movie line. It was pretty much the same scene. The writing was it was pretty much the same, a little different. And Glenn, what he did is he took the original scene and the reshoot and intercut them, because in his philosophy, couples have the same fight over and over and over again in the same place. And I just thought it was great. When he showed it to me, he said, "You're going to hate this. I know you're going to hate this." And I thought it was so bold and interesting.
And that was Nick's
That was
wife at the time. Or
Oh, his
fiance.
fiance. That was Nick's fiance, Julie Marquez. And it's so funny because they so clearly belong together. I mean, look how they look alike and they're the same height, and I'm like this midget. I just always thought that was so funny. I was so much shorter than them. That was actually shot at the end of a very long night, where I think we started at 11 p.m. and went till 1 in the afternoon the next day. That was the GCC in Sherman Oaks, my local movie theater. You could see the whole 9 yards was playing at that time. It's how you can always date a movie.
And you named her after me, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I
Your
named
homage.
her character's
Was
Caroline.
this not the very last scene shot in the movie? In the
Yes,
reshoots?
yes, it's the very last scene shot in the movie.
In that parking lot?
No, this scene is right here.
Right.
This scene in the car. It was the very last scene shot of this movie.
The last scene of the last reshoots.
Yeah.
But you knew that.
Did she dump you?
Look how ugly it is too. I mean, it's ugly because we had literally we had no equipment and we just shot it, and it was in this parking lot.
That's different.
But it didn't matter because this is a scene where it's just about
No, it's
the
not.
characters
She
and the
meant
writing.
Nothing to me then.
Not a
Was
vision.
this in the parking lot where the bookstore
Why were
was?
you with her?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's when the craft services had gotten down to gummy worms.
Sex.
That's all I can say.
Actually,
We
we
didn't
had
go-
Burger King this last morning, as I recall.
Wait, I just have to comment on this because I think this is my favorite moment in the whole film, where Amy hears Matthew saying, "You have a big fat Jewish ass," and what he's really saying is, "I'm crazy about you, and these other relationships are in the past, and you're in the present," and she just doesn't even hear him.
Do you remember when we came up with that at my house?
Oh, that's so funny because Scott thinks he came up with that.
I
I
told
work
you
at
to
the
do
group-
it right out in the parking lot. I said, just have him talk and shoot his mouth, and you'll put in dialogue later, and you don't even remember.
No, you said to do that close up of his mouth. We're talking about the concept of the writing.
No, Julie and I were talking as girlfriends about what you hear.
You could tell Scott that because he insists that that was his idea.
No, we were talking about what you hear men say and what they say, and
Right.
no matter what they're saying, you always hear everything through your insecurity
Yeah.
canal. You just
Right.
do.
Now, what
And that-
happens if we say things that feed into the insecurity? Like, what if we say something negative? Does it reverse and go to the positive?
No,
No. Are
no.
you
It's
kidding?
just,
No matter what,
it's
it
just
all-
validating
Right.
that we knew you were like that.
So it just all goes
You
into
can't
the,
win.
like,
And
the
even if you
trash
say
compactor.
something really positive,
Right, we're hearing it through.
we think you're lying.
Right,
And
exactly.
covering for the negative.
That color looks good on you. Do I look fat? You know what I mean? That's when we came up with that. Scott thinks he came up with that. He didn't.
Well,
that was a
you know
girl.
the thing is
girl
that
moment.
no, so much of this of the things in this movie, people will say to me, "Oh, I came up with that. Remember, I told you." And the thing is that I take that as the ultimate compliment because this happens in everyone's lives. These scenes have
That's
happened
right.
over and over again to the point that everyone thinks, "Oh, we came up with that. We came up with that."
So that's how you justify robbing us of our ideas?
Sure, whatever it takes. Whatever it
Exactly.
takes. Well, look, Caroline has worked with Woody Allen so many times, and she would always tell me how he would steal from other people. So
Plagiarism. It's the answer.
Caroline, didn't you write Husbands and Wives?
Caroline wrote Husbands and Wives. It's
I am
true.
Woody Allen.
Woody just completely ripped you off.
It's true.
3 months, and I'm telling you,
Look, where do you get your ideas if not from real life?
every time I try to get inside of him, he puts up a wall,
and I end up feeling guilty.
This was a reshoot as well, Don, so maybe you are going to win the confession thing. All right, okay. Well, these were, they're not reshoots, they're actually additional photography. People love the priest so much that they wanted more scenes with him. So I had to write 2 more scenes, which is what this one and the previous one were.
And there was one version of the movie where people were so crazy about him, they wanted Julie to end up with him.
Well, that's going to be in the deleted scenes.
And I feel like I come in here and you've just been.
But yeah, people loved him so much that there was, this huge contingent of people who said you should end up with the priest. But that wasn't what I wrote. It was very confusing.
Right.
I tried to do it, but it wasn't the story I
Now,
wrote.
this scene was not in the original script, was it?
No.
No, it was because Julie lost this character for a while and wanted her to come back. And so originally the last scene was when they had that big fight, right?
Yeah.
In your original script.
No, in my original script, there was a scene with you and your girlfriend.
That's right. We never got to shoot.
Which we didn't have time to shoot.
And Julie cast her and everything. She kept showing up every night, and then we'd run out of time. Do you remember that?
Right. She'd have hair and makeup.
It'd be about 1 a.m, and Julie would go, "We're not going to get to it today."
That was Lisa Gerstein. Yeah, we never got to shoot her. But that's, we would drop these scenes here and there because we didn't have time, and then the whole script started to collapse in on itself in the first cut. And I had to end up, writing these new scenes because the scenes I originally wrote, I couldn't shoot because those locations didn't exist anymore. It was like a big puzzle. The problem...
That little lock around your neck, that is your... Have you discussed that?
No, well, I wear that in real life. My grandmother gave that to me for my 22nd birthday.
Well,
it was
that's
hers.
important.
It was hers, and I felt it really says a lot about Amy because she has a lock on her heart, which she takes off consequently in the sushi bar and when she goes to bed with Matthew for the first time. She's not wearing the necklace.
I didn't know that.
In this scene, Julie wanted me to do some looping. This is my favorite thing a director's ever said. And somehow the sound person wasn't satisfied with something. It's the last moment of the scene. I went to do the ADR, and we started to do it, and Julie went, "No, I don't want to do it, because you'll never get the performance you had, and so I don't care." And you just let me out of it. Do you remember that?
We feel for children. It's what we feel for our parents. It's what we
Well,
feel for our
everyone will be very happy to know that you are about to get a glimpse of Don Bloomfield.
Oh, wait.
He is coming up. Don, this scene has been in for...
No.
You're driving me nuts.
I didn't even shave this day.
Oh, here he is. Don Bloomfield.
Sorry. You gotta love this.
There he is.
San Diego, what's on your mind?
The behind-the-scenes man shows up.
I have 2 lines.
And you deliver them perfectly.
Thank you. Next time I'll get 3.
You know what? You're probably right.
And the angry caller, his voice is over the microphone, is Joe Newlight,
Right.
my friend Joe Newlight and Don's former roommate. That's Marissa Jarrett Winokur, who you might recognize from American Beauty, and she's a very up-and-coming, I think she'll be a star. She's wonderful. She had come in and auditioned.
Hilarious.
Yeah, she's just fantastic. I wish she was in the movie more. There she is. That was a very bad fainting because we had no extras, and it was a very hard scene to cut. That scene was all done with sound.
I'm sorry.
What made that scene hard to cut is that it was my scene and you had to cut around it and completely remove me from it. I was the one who revived you out on the sidewalk.
There were no extras. It looked ridiculous. It was really tough to have a bomb scare without any
Oh my God, we've been worried sick about
any
you.
extras.
Your mother thinks it's time to stop doing the interview circus.
Right. I mean, are
There
these
they are.
insane ideas
This is where they meet
risking
Matthew for the first
your
time.
Life for? I mean, the bomb squad is here, for God's sake. What would your father and I do if something happened to you?
Hi, I'm Matthew.
It's a great shot.
Well,
Yeah, I like
can't
that
you
shot.
talk some sense into her then? Get her to stop doing these stupid interviews?
How the hell you think she met him in the first place?
What's amazing is to edit a movie and keep looking at yourself in slow motion over and over and over again. Came to the editing room one day and I said to Julie, "How are you doing it?" And she said, "I don't know, because first of all, you have to recover from seeing yourself. Then you have to be objective enough to figure out how to tell your story when you're in every frame."
Didn't you eventually feel like you were editing Amy, like an actress?
Like you
playing
weren't looking
Amy?
at yourself?
Didn't you eventually? Because I forgot. I never connected you with the girl I'm looking at on the Avid. You know, eventually it was just, we were discussing someone else's performance to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You have to become that
I consider
objective.
myself a director first. I mean, I think it's funny because most, there are directors who are really actors first and then direct. But for me, I'm a director who had directed 2 films and then made this one and hadn't acted in the film before, although I used to act in I did act in college.
But you didn't intend to star in this movie when you very first conceived of doing it, did you?
I think deep in my heart, in my subconscious, I wanted to, but I knew I'd find someone better. So it wasn't a possibility because I knew I would be auditioning people and everyone would be better than me and I would never cast myself to the detriment of the movie. And then as we were casting, we didn't find anyone.
She didn't show up.
She did not show up, even close. And then I was nervous. Then it was actually a reality. And then
Well, because you had a real deadline. I mean, you know.
Yeah,
it's
and
not
I
like
was
other things where
petrified.
you can put it off month after month
Yeah.
after month.
I was petrified. I thought, I'm not in shape. I would have to lose weight. I have to work with an acting coach. I don't know how I'm going to do. I was petrified. I didn't want to tell anybody. I thought the whole crew will drop out. Everyone will drop out. Which actually, consequently, there were people who did drop out when they found out I was going to play Amy.
Actually, I think
They'll go
when you cast
unnamed.
me, I don't think you were playing Amy.
No.
That's right.
And I mean,
It was to be determined.
Yeah, because people thought, oh, the director is
And
going
that's
to
when
gonna
George-
play the role.
That's
oh,
when George Clooney said that he's not going to play Matthew.
Absolutely. That was very upsetting because George was going to play Matthew.
And then Brad Pitt passed, and that was, yeah. I remember when Brad showed up, he was so excited.
Then he found out I was playing Amy, and he said, "Forget it. I'm not kissing that." No, it's I felt I'll never have this chance again in my life. I've raised this money. It's no easy task. It'll probably never happen again. And life is short, and I've got to take this shot.
And it was a personal story. I mean, it was,
I really, I think
Well, that's what we
I did a
discussed.
screen test, and I showed it to Nancy, the casting director, and Fred and other people I was working with, and said, be honest.
Well, that's one
Can
of
I
the
do
things you
this?
and I discussed when you came over to my house. And
Yeah.
and I said to you, I said, Julie, nobody knows the voice of this woman. You heard her voice when you wrote the lines. All you do is relax and say it exactly as you heard it when she spoke to you when you wrote the script.
I could not have done this ever without you.
Well,
Ever.
That's
Would not have
nice.
had
I
the
don't know.
confidence to play the role. Ever.
there goes those Twinkies. Snowball.
Snowball.
Oh, this is a reshoot.
Now, this was, because,
This is a couple years later.
no, only a year and a half. But Caroline had lost a ton of weight. Her hair was a different color. She had done Bounce and with Gwyneth Paltrow. So you told me that's why you lost so much weight is because you were going to be in the screen. You were going to be on the screen next to Gwyneth, and you were just petrified. So you
Next
lost
to an
all this-
X-ray. Really? And what difference would it have made? I mean, really.
So we did this reshoot, and I said, "Oh my God, we're gonna have to put in some sort of line about, why you look different."
I really don't want this to become like some kind of like stroking of everybody in the movie, but I really want to say this objectively. Everybody plays a very certain and very important element in the making of a movie. And Caroline, I know this from having gone through it with Julie. You really represented absolute professionalism. I mean, nobody, the fact that you existed in this movie just was something for everyone else to revolve around. And I don't think anybody had as much experience and as much.
That was
Wait,
my
wait,
mom. That was
wait,
my
wait.
mom.
I'm
Wait,
sorry.
that was we wrote this scene together at my house, I think, Julie, when we were talking
That's
about the
right.
script, about how would Janet continue to fit into the movie. Did she belong? And so this scene was in, it was out, it was in, it was out, and then we talked about Janet finding love in her life. And we used a picture from the very first time you screened the movie.
Of you and my mom.
Somebody snapped a picture of Julie's mom and me at the very first screening of the very first cut of the movie. And we decided that that was going to be my girlfriend, was Julie's mom. And I don't know when you told her. Did you tell her?
I didn't tell her. I just showed her the movie.
And
then
did she scream?
Oh yeah, she was thrilled. She was thrilled.
Does this mean I can't go on my rampage about Caroline anymore?
We can we'll come back to it.
No,
But I
I'll
do have
go
to
on
talk
the
about
whole
this was
time.
also the first shot with the first day of shooting. We shot all the things at Dawn and Elizabeth's house.
Important for a woman. I mean, women are very vulnerable in today's society.
Well, I couldn't disagree with you more.
Of course you couldn't.
Oh, will you please stop it? I know you love each other. Why do you always have to prove me right about my nasty bullshit theories about relationships? I need an example. Give me a good example.
Look how cute she is. Should we give her an example?
I think we should give her an
We'll give her
example.
an example.
You have no messages. You have no messages. No messages.
This is my that was my street. I was outside my house. that driving shot.
Who's
And
on
this
the
is
wheel?
Hollywood Boulevard. We go back. We recycled some shots. The masturbation shot is recycled. The
is
driving
You Have No
shots are
Messages?
recycled. Yeah, this is actually, that was Don's voice doing You Have No Messages.
It's my only moment in the movie. My best moment.
It is your best moment. It is maybe the best moment in the whole movie.
That's not true.
You're a genius. You are.
I'm so glad Caroline was drinking water when you said that. I hope they cut that right out. Oh, this was Fred 62. This was, I think this was the most exhausting time of the movie when we were shooting inside and outside of Fred 62.
Yeah, this was a bad day. This was all steady cam.
Well, it started at about 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, these we had these horrible days where we would start at midnight and go to 2 in the afternoon the next day, and
And there's Robert
horrible. Yes,
from Wardrobe right there on the right.
yeah, he's the costume designer.
This scene is up for debate from a lot of people, the fantasy element of this.
Yeah, a lot of people think he's really there. A lot of people, there's been confusion. Originally, this scene, he was supposed to be there. And this was actually going to be the end of the movie. He comes after her and chases her, and they reconcile on the street. And that didn't work. So it was actually Scott's idea, Scott Mandel's idea, this scene here with the priest. He said, you never have closure with the priest in the movie. It'd be great that you run into him at the very end. And my goodness, how could I have not thought of that? I just still feel like a complete moron because I think it's so important that they have closure. It opened up a few can of worms in that people then thought, oh, they're going to end up together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the reasons that we wanted closure with them is because he was so good in the part that you just kept shooting more and more with the two of them.
Right.
And
His
he became
part,
more and more important in the movie.
Absolutely, because in the
Because of
original
his work.
script, it was a small part. And this is where the performance elevated it to such a degree that he became...
It forced your hand.
Yeah.
In a great way. Now, this was shot in the Valley. Meanwhile, Fred 62 was over in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And yet this is right around the corner.
Yeah. Finland Baths, my local massage parlor, which burned down recently.
And this was the original title of the movie.
That was, yes, Why Love Doesn't Work. That was the original title, which Sam Goldwyn Jr. told me to change because he said it wasn't catchy. And I should put the word orgasm in the title.
And then when Julie got into the Santa Barbara Film Festival, no one wanted her to be on TV because they didn't want to say the name of the movie. So you can't win.
Well, it's very metaphoric. I mean, actually, the title is really metaphoric for the whole movie because it's like a woman having an orgasm. It's taken forever to happen, but when it finally did, it worked. So, as long as you have it, it might take a lot of work, but once you get there.
Now there was about 5 people there, and they became about 5,000. But this was a day we arrived at location and the trailers hadn't showed up yet, so we just laid down on the grass.
Yeah,
for
this
a
is
long
all digital.
time.
There are only a few people here that we digitally reproduced at Cinesite who donated all of this work. God bless their souls.
But Julie wrote an independent feature where there was a major rally with 500,000 people.
Yeah.
And then she got there, and I remember we pulled up to an empty field, and there wasn't a trailer there, and they got lost, and it was...
But there were about 30 pints of Ben & Jerry's ice cream at lunch.
Yeah.
That was my favorite day of shooting.
This was actually the last day of shooting for the original shoot of the movie. This was the last day.
That's right.
The rally.
Was the rally, and you did that monologue over and over and over
And
again?
I did it to Scott. I was looking at Scott standing out in the field because I needed an eye line, and I needed to get to this place, this emotional place. I needed to look at this man that I was falling in love with in real life.
This is the
And it
only
worked.
time I saw you in the entire duration of this shoot, ever one time, show your anger when someone walked right in front of your eye line, and it was really during the first take, which was a really special take. It was really heartfelt, and you really you were just so furious.
Yeah.
And it's the only time I remember you just really exhibiting that. Otherwise, you really kept it all between us or in your trailer. Or
It was a great, and this is great writing. Great, great, great piece of writing. And there was a version of the movie where you had cut the speech down, and I just said, no, this is just such wonderful writing. The extras in this, when Julie was editing it and I was looking at it up close, is truly one of the funniest things because they are
They weren't even listening.
There were the producers' parents. There was a lot of relatives on the set that day. And because Julie had to do it about 100 times, and there was times I remember, Julie, where you were saying the speech to me in close-up, and I, at certain points, and I would turn around and look at the people who were listening. They were yawning. And
Yeah, it was tough. That was a tough day.
Well, it was a hot
before
day.
I
it was
forget,
so hot.
and I don't want to forget, I want to say that the colorist on this DVD transfer, Eric Bittinger from Modern Video in Glendale, did a phenomenal job. The movie, he really just fixed anything that was wrong, and he did a terrific job with the color. That's the good part at the end, when it's all cut together and you get to just futz with the color.
I would love to have seen more of Tina. I thought she was.
She's phenomenal.
She really radiates on screen, and I really selfishly.
My name is Amy Mandel. I'm 29 years old.
I know, me too.
Now, see, if Julie had a big budget, we would have all gotten those T-shirts that say "Dump him now."
I think there were 3.
I know.
I'm single. My name is Amy Mandel. I'm 40 years old.
So this was
Jewish.
this scene was a rewrite because the final scene didn't work, and I couldn't. I was having trouble coming up with the final scene, and then this just came to me. Just oh my God, it should be circular. The movie starts in the bookstore and she's alone, and it ends in a bookstore and she's with him, and it was really, I thought, just the perfect ending.
Tell them the other book that you had this character write in one version of this movie.
That's also on the DVD deleted scenes.
That is so funny.
Yeah, you'll have to go to the deleted scenes to see that. Yeah. But I really thought it's perfect because at the beginning she's surrounded by her fans and she's saying, it looks like everything in my life is great. I'm famous, I'm successful, but I really don't know what the hell's going on. And here she's with her fans and she admits the truth. She finally, comes out and says, I'm willing to give it a try. I'm willing to change.
But I'm ready to.
And
I'm really ready.
and there you are, Caroline, happy now that Amy has found love.
But where's my girlfriend?
Thank you all for coming.
It's because we had the scene where I have a girlfriend.
Lisa Gerstein.
Actually, I don't
No.
No, my mom.
Here, our mom.
Oh, right. But Lisa Gerstein was going to be your girlfriend.
That's right. She showed up so many days to shoot.
Yeah.
In retrospect, people think they've changed, but they really haven't. Not
No,
that I'm
and this
not
is actually like
saying
the same shot with Janet and I at the beginning, walking towards the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And
So-
this is a black screen.
Well, these are the credits, done at Title House. And thank you to Fred Masselink, my optical lineup person, who's phenomenal. And my co-producers, my co-executive producers, Trey Wilkins and Jeanette Volturno, who put up the finishing money for this film, and I never could have finished it without them.
Mm-hmm.
They have been amazing. They saw the movie on a video cut at the Santa Barbara Film Festival and decided to put up the money to finish it. And I didn't even get to mention Miriam Cutler's score, which is, I think, also just really brought the movie together.
Another character, you're right.
Yay!
Like to be in the room when my name comes up.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us, and hope you've enjoyed the film and the commentary and the deleted scenes, which can be seen. And there are many of them,
Wow.
much to all of our dismay.
That's another movie.
That is another movie.
You can just take all the pieces and then, reconfigure them and have a new story.
Well, it's important to admit the mistakes you make because
They weren't mistakes. It was part of the process.
Are you gonna have those Easter eggs on this, like the little hidden things on the DVD, where people have to find them?
no. What Easter eggs?
Oh, isn't that what they call when they hide certain things and
Oh,
you have to find them?
no. I don't know. I think we have to talk to the Sundance channel, who's putting out the DVD and doing a phenomenal job.
There's Drea Detroit right there. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. Detroit. And there's Robin Wood.
The best assistant in the world.
Mm-hmm. And Juan Moss, the best.
Best first AD. God bless him.
Making a movie is like being the director of a summer camp. You have to make sure nobody drowns and that everybody gets to where they need to, to eat and get the movie in the can.
It really is. and then when it's over with, you can't wait to come back the next summer,
I know.
even if you hated everyone.
Right.
It's so true.
Right. When it ends, you curse it. You have bee stings and sunburn.
Right, exactly, and you go-
And you're like, I'm never going back to camp. Just give it one more year. You're like, you know what? I really miss that place.
I know, exactly. And I think that Julie, if she called every single person on this crawl and said, okay, we're doing it again, they'd all show up.
Yeah.
So many I know.
I got a boyfriend and he's driving me crazy. Lord knows he's never satisfied.
That was one of the things that really made it a pleasure in the editing room, Julie, is all your possible potential selections for music. I must say, Julie Davis has the best taste in music of anyone I've ever.
What's that song I love that you were talking
Oh,
about?
the Melissa Ferrick song,
Yeah.
I Am Done. Yeah,
Oh.
Melissa Ferrick is amazing. Go buy her CDs. She's the greatest. And this song you're hearing right now is Joy Askew, Little Darling.
Love
And she should just be a big star. I mean, she is so talented. Her entire album, every song is as good as this song. And
Well, that's something you take really seriously, is your music. I mean,
Well-
I remember giving you a tape of a song,
Music
a
is
Donna Summer song, a Day of Independence, and you just drove around and around and around.
I still wish that song was in the
listening to
movie.
that. And that's how you do it. I mean, you really, if it feels right, you just listen to it until it becomes kind of organic in your brain, one with their movie.
Well, music is another character. Music is like casting. You got to cast the right, the right song.
I'm sorry, State of Independence, not Day of Independence. In case Donna Summers is listening. Donna Summer.
Oh, Don, you're losing it.
Well,
Don needs
she's-
to go home and go to bed.
She's from Newton, Massachusetts, which is where I'm from, so I have to be careful.
These are the actors who didn't end up in the finished film, and they all did a great job.
Christy Swinehart,
Yeah.
great actress.
Look at the list of our restaurants. I'm so hoping.
And the most important thing for me is that this film is for Scott and Holden, my son, who I recently, not recently, who I had a year ago. And the love of my life.
Two productions at once.